waving, but one of his big supporters in the media, Rupert Murdoch, seems to have abandoned him.
I know, isn't that remarkable? But Rupert Murdoch certainly has a pretty good track record in choosing leaders. So the fact that Rupert Murdoch has abandoned Donald Trump could be significant. Donald Trump no longer has Twitter as a forum for which to launch himself, although with Twitter under new management, that could change at some point and could change sooner rather than later. But when Fox News paid Donald Trump so very much attention, Donald Trump didn't have to spend very much of his campaign war chest on advertising. He was getting it for free. We know that Donald Trump doesn't like to pay for a lot of stuff. So the fact that that Fox News seems to have abandoned Donald Trump could certainly have an impact on his campaign, assuming he announces campaign. But certainly it feels like he is going to run. But in terms of getting his message to people, he's probably going to have to pay a whole lot more this time around than he did for his last two campaigns.
Yeah, it's part of the problem that there's no one in the Republican Party capable of telling Trump, look, we think the game is up. And even though you think you're way ahead of DeSantis in the approval ratings, it may well be that many Republicans on Capitol Hill have abandoned you.
And it certainly feels like that. It certainly feels that much of the Republican Party no longer views Donald Trump as a vote getter. And there's a lot of evidence to prove that point. Donald Trump did win the presidency in 2016, although he didn't win the popular vote. He won the electoral vote, and that made him president. But in the 2018 midterms, he lost control of both houses of Congress. Well, that's a little bit more typical in midterms, although he did much worse than he had hoped at that point. He then lost the election in 2020 and had a much worse performance in these midterms, the 2022 midterms, than he had hoped. Very few of his handpicked candidates did particularly well. So it does feel very much like the Republican Party is realizing that perhaps he's not the vote getter they would have hoped. The problem is that many activists on the ground, Donald Trump's support may not be broad, but it is very, very deep. His supporters are so supportive of him.
Yeah, I mean, part of the sort of background is that many think that he may split from the Republicans and go with his own Make America Great Again party and actually move even further to the right.
And that's highly possible. The history of third parties in the U.S. has not been particularly successful. Although where we saw, Rupert Perot in Texas, a computer tycoon, ran a third party and did steal. He won about 12% of the popular vote and did steal a lot of that vote from the Republican Party. So setting up a third party is probably not great news for the Republicans. But I think one of the things that's so fascinating about it's fair now to say upcoming presidential election, after having got through the midterms, we have fired the starting gun on the presidential election for 2022. And at this moment, there are no presumptive nominee. Sorry about that. But there's no presumptive nominee for either party. Joe Biden has said, yes, he would like to run again. That's always been his plan. Not entirely clear that he will run again. Not entirely clear who's going to run on the Republican side. And as you mentioned with your reporter there, both men are definitely meet the qualification as elder statesmen. So 2 years out, and it's not clear who's going to be running on either side.
Yeah, and whether there'll be a generational change with DeSantis and maybe someone else for the Democrats. Anyway, as you say, the race does start in 2022, and we'll see tonight maybe in Mar-a-Lago what's being said. Laurie, thanks very much.